I'm glad to see you changed it.
That actually was my D&D name, though. So
okay. Well,
No.
welcome everybody. We're gonna have some other people joining us over the next probably hour or so. Odin is going to make it. He just has to turn his kid in for the night. I haven't heard from Lady Gravemaster. I thought Father Sinatra might be here, but oh well.
Yeah.
Did you watch the funeral?
Most of it. I've been really busy. I'm dog sitting right now, so that's why I kind of was all over the place. Yeah, I watched it. I think we've talked before how it's a little sad to be feeling the way we're feeling. That of course, we're sorry that somebody passed away.
Yeah. And the thing I talked about from the pulpit this morning is I was 4 when John Paul was elected, and I was 3 years away from being ordained when he died. So I mean, he was the Pope for my whole life. And
yeah,
I mean, the thing is, I also said is I remember the young John Paul II who would climb down the stairs from the plane and get on the ground and kiss it. I remember the John Paul that used to like to climb the mountains or go hiking, skiing. And I mean, I remember John Paul as he grew old.
Yeah.
Where Francis, and again, this is nothing against him, was 77 when he was elected. So I mean, he made it only once over here to America, where John Paul did 6 visits. So I mean, there's a little bit more of exposure of John Paul in this country, and this is before social media too.
Yeah. Well, and I hate to say this, but again, okay, everything I'm going to say is I hate to say this. There seemed to be like a certain fondness that John Paul and Benedict had toward the faithful that we didn't feel. So it's kind of like that grandfather, that uncle that like doesn't like you very well, but you're sad they passed.
I gotta ask, which fee or which station did you watch the coverage on?
I watched it mostly on EWTN.
Okay. I just want to play 1 minute of ABC. Oh, no. And I don't want to go into the whole thing just because I'll get struck probably, but just to kind of give you a little taste of how they introduced it.
An ABC News special. This morning, the world pays tribute, remembering his life, his legacy, his profound impact, celebrating Francis, the people's Pope.
I bless each one of you from my heart. Please remember to pray for me.
Now reporting live from the Vatican, David Muir.
And I mean, here's kind of like the sickening part here.
Good morning, and we're so glad you're with us here this morning. We join you from St. Peter's Square in Vatican City. We are here, of course, for the funeral of Pope Francis, a lifelong humble servant of the Catholic Church. He dedicated his life to lifting up the lives of others, breaking at times from ritual and tradition to lead the church in a more humble, a more modest way. It is just
anyway.
Wow.
Good to see you, Odin.
Good to see y'all.
Hey, it's Odin.
Howdy.
Yes, I made it through 5 minutes of that before I turned it off because, the thing is, I'm not going to get up here and criticize the Pope, but the one thing I'm trying to reconcile is this idea that he's saying everybody is welcome, yet cracking down on Latin Mass and tradition. It's just
cradle Catholics, faithful Catholics, convert Catholics.
It feels like I'm taking crazy pills.
Well, the other issue too, and I don't know if you, and obviously you don't have to say necessarily, but I don't know if you ever read the book, The Dictator Pope.
No.
But it's a really good book because it just it makes it sound like it's just going to be a hit piece on it, but it really just breaks down at like a very visceral level about how the whole movement, especially with, ecumenism and synodality, whatever the heck that even means. We still don't really even know exactly what synodality is, because the synodality is the season of synodality with synodality on top, or with a little bit of sprinkling of synodality. Basically they use it to define their terms. But it kind of just shows you, like, as much as he was on that, he was also a very, basically like a dictator. And again, we use that term And really, honestly, the Pope is like a monarch, and that's really the more accurate way of describing what the Pope and his power is.
The other thing too, sorry,
yeah, no,
it just is like people that are saying he's a conservative versus he's a liberal. It's like you can't think of it as Republican versus Democrat, and that's what people in this country are trying to do.
Exactly, and that's why the way I always describe it is no, there's orthodox and there's progressive. That's the only way. It's like either you are with the church's teachings and tradition, or you're not. And that's like the big issue is that unfortunately, when it comes to much, especially towards, as it got later on during his pontificate, he became a bit, too progressive to a certain extent on certain issues. And the fact that you have mainstream media in our own country basically coming to his defense and canonizing him, essentially, giving him all this praise, that should be your ultimate sign about how he was perceived and where his ultimate push really was going, because only progressive media would enjoy progressive messaging,
Yeah, and as I told the people this morning at Mass, it's like if you want to watch something, don't watch the secular media.
Yeah.
Because they're just gonna, I didn't say it's slanted, but as we talked in our private chat, I'm miffed with Fox News because of Jonathan Morris.
Yeah. It's such a discouragement.
It is. But the thing is, and for those that are watching that don't know it, when a priest leaves the priesthood, he is forbidden by the law of the church, I believe, from having a public ministry within a church. So you're not going to see ex-father Jonathan Morris at the pulpit or distributing communion or teaching class, but he's in the media.
Yep.
And I don't think the law goes to that, but the scandal does. Because it's one of the anchors was saying, he was correcting one of the anchors. It's like, I'm no longer a father. And she's like, you'll always be a father to us.
And that's why. That's
because
why.
He was on for years in his clerics, and now he's not.
Yeah. Well, if you love the world, and if the world loves you, something's wrong.
Yeah.
Yep. And honestly, I stand by what I had said in the private chat too. It's like, I'm sorry, but how has this not led to an excommunication? Because again, part of, as you said, I'm pretty sure that's part of the law too, is that you can't do anything to cause public scandal. Like that's like the one basic requirement there, because it is a big deal.
I will say the difference between him and Frank Pavone is Pavone is still calling himself a priest, or the people are still calling him a priest, and he is not fixing that, where Jonathan Morris corrected them.
Yeah.
So, I will give Morris that.
Yeah.
But still,
the difference is that the difference between those two, though, is one was a penalty versus the other being a choice that he made. Because Father Pavone did not choose to leave the priesthood.
Well, but he also violated, and I will say as a priest, we have the same political views, but using an aborted baby on an altar in a political ad is an abomination. It's a disrespect of the dignity of the dead baby. It blatantly violates the role of priests when it comes to politics, because we are supposed to not be involved in politics. And he had on his Facebook and his Twitter pictures of him with Trump wearing the MAGA hat. And again, I think
it's hard for me to. I'm like biting my tongue. It's like it's so hard because it's like, wait a minute, like if that's like the one thing that's actually enforced, like there are too many other people. And the other issue too is I honestly have never bought that argument about priests should not be political, because I'm sorry, Christ was very political. If you look at his ministry, he was very political.
I know, but again, I'll have to send you the directory for life and ministry of priests. The idea, it's really complicated.
I get that there's too much potential for being compromised, and that's why they don't want to do it. But I think that the point was just kind of being made there, that it only seems like these things are done one way. Like, I have no problem with the penalty that Frank Pavone was given. However, it just seems like there's only one side that's getting any kind of penalty, but there are certain priests like that one Jesuit,
Father Rupnik.
Yeah, that he should have been removed too from the priesthood, and that's the problem. It's like, listen, if you're not true to your vows, or if you're disobedient, if you're breaking obedience, And if you're a heretic or whatever, yeah, you should eventually, if you are obstinate in it,
Well,
you
and
should have your faculties removed. But
that was the
it's
problem
only
with
happening to one.
right, and I agree. And James Martin comes to mind too. But I mean, the thing that was frustrating for me is with Pavone is you take the promise of obedience to the bishop and his successors, and he didn't like Cardinal Egan in New York, so he got incarnated down in Texas. Then the new bishop comes and he doesn't like him, so he basically is disobedient to the promises he made when he was ordained. I mean, the bishop tells you to do something within reason, and this was basically financial accounting, which all priests are supposed to give. So,
yeah, I don't know as much about the Pavone case to be able to really speak one way or the other. It's hard for me to even accept that when, again, the alternatives are there. But the main point also was that in the case of Father Morris, or the former Father Morris, like, he chose to leave the clerical state, and as a condition of choosing to leave the clerical state, it is a condition not to cause scandal. Whereas Frank Pavone, he did not want to leave the clerical state. He had no intention of leaving. He was removed as a penalty, and so I don't have as much of an issue with him because, again, he has still that indelible mark. He is still a priest.
Yeah,
that can never be taken away. And again, obviously, he's been told like he cannot publicly, and so. But I will say, like, at least for the public perception, I don't watch his stuff all the time, but it sure looks like he doesn't wear the clerics.
Yeah,
so he is still doing it. I think he's doing a heck of a lot more than Jonathan Morris is doing.
Mm-hmm. To answer Michelle's question, I really can't say. I mean, again, as Odin mentioned, one of the effects of the sacrament of holy orders is we have the indelible mark on our soul for all eternity. So even if you leave the priesthood, you are still technically a priest, even if you don't call yourself father. I really don't know. From what I've studied at Pavone, I think you would have to do penance before you. It's just a can of worms.
Yeah.
It's an ugly can of worms.
At the end of the day, if you are not willing to be obedient in the whether it's a vow or a promise in the case of parish priests, then I'm sorry. We see some other people that they won't become Catholic priests because they don't want to be obedient. It's like, then you're not, then there is an importance to obedience, and it causes scandal when they don't. And again, if that's not what you're called to do, like when you make vows, let's say they're marriage vows, whatever, or whether they're priesthood vows, they are not for, well, when I feel like it's okay. Unless, as you say, Father Miller, it is something that is gravely sinful that a priest tries to do to you under obedience. But part of obedience is humility as well. And I see a lack of humility in almost all of these public priests. And you know, to the detriment of their soul, because they made those vows.
Yeah, and that's the tricky part too, right? Because it really is up to prudential judgment to determine whether or not you believe something is too far for you or not. And that's why when there are some, again, I wouldn't say Pavone's in this category, but like when there are some priests where their bishops are asking them, like, I think personally, if any priest was disciplined during COVID because they did not listen to their priest about the sacraments, that to me is a completely legitimate act for them to continue to offer the sacraments and to not listen to their bishops in that specific instance. I think that, you know, again, because their primary objective is to save souls, not to focus on the physical well-being of others, right?
Gracious Magazine had a good article about that too.
Yeah. And so I think, like, again, that comes down to, like, again, those specific other issues where, and that's not where these two priests that we're talking about right now are, you know, really falling into that category. But it's such a, and that's why, kind of getting to the general idea of like the Conclave edition, right? We really, honestly, we need an Orthodox Pope who's going to bring us to some sense of normalcy, even if it's not a, you know, quote, rad trad or conservative. Again, those terms in general are usually not very good, but we just need an Orthodox. And I always say, like, to me, we need a holy priest. Like, we need a holy Pope, because it's the only way that some of the bigger issues going on right now are going to be fixed.
And one who has prudence, who has the virtue of prudence and is clear. Like, I call Francis in many ways the Donald Trump of popes. He would just blurt things out. I say what you want about Trump. The man doesn't have a prudent bone in his body. And in many ways, neither did Francis. And it's like, you've got to learn to guard your tongue, especially when you're the vicar of Christ. And you just can't go blurting things on airplanes all the time the way he did.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, oh, heavens, what's he going to say now? But I showed this on my stream on Friday. I don't know if you two have seen the ABC clip of when they announced John Paul II. Because everybody's talking about these guys going to be papable and all that stuff. But the thing I want you to notice is the background noise when they announce Carol. Because you hear the priest commentators saying the poll. Here we go.
Carolum Sancte Romane Ecclesiae Cardinalem Wojtyła.
What's fun about this clip is Peter Jennings, who I grew up with, is trying to pronounce the name Wojtyła, and he can't.
As far as we can understand, the Cardinal Felici has just announced the name of a Polish cardinal. Am I correct, Father O'Keefe?
This is exactly correct. This is Cardinal Charles Wojtyła, who is 58 years old, and he is the Cardinal Archdiocese of Cracovia.
Sibi nomen imposuit Ioannis Pauli.
Here comes the fun part.
Who has taken the name of John Paul.
This is quite an extraordinary surprise, Father O'Keefe.
Absolutely.
Cardinal Carol, to be perfectly honest, I can't even pronounce his name yet. Wojtyła?
Wojtyła?
Wojtyła. Wojtyła. The accent is on the T. Wojtyła. Although you spell it Wojtila. Wojtyła. My Polish friends have assured me of that.
Anyway.
I like that. I like that. That's what my Polish friends have assured me of this. And I guess my question,
that's the thing. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, was because when it comes to John Paul II, I didn't really know much, but was that a surprise? Was he one of the Papa Bile? I mean, that's
no,
what he was
not. He was not expected. I mean, and that's the reason why you hear longer, in the background, right? The poll. The what?
It took longer too, right? Like it took like a couple days, right? That's because that's longer by today's standards.
Well, I was only 4, so I don't remember.
Okay. How dare you?
When it was huge that it was a pope from behind the Iron Curtain as well. This was during the Soviet Empire, so it was.
Well, and I mean, okay, so have you two seen Shoes of the Fisherman? Well, no, I know Odin hasn't. Because
I have it though. I have it. It's on my list. Yes.
Yeah,
I know, but you remember David Jansen when they announced the name of the Pope and he's a Soviet. It's like the Russian, and he's shocked and everything.
Yeah.
So
what's to be expected?
According to General Search, it was on the 8th ballot.
Okay.
So that would have been on the third day.
Or third day, yeah.
Yeah. So and that actually is a little bit on the longer side, right? And so like I think it was I know that he has a lot of other opinions that people may not necessarily like, but Dr. Taylor Marshall has been doing a breakdown of all of the cardinals. I really liked how he's been doing those breakdowns specifically because he gives a lot of information, biographical and quotes and such like that. But one of the things that I really do like is that he always says there's basically a front tier of cardinals and then there's this second tier. And if it's going to be one of these first tier, Papa Bile, the ones that you're hearing about all the time, right? If it's going to be a Cardinal Sarah, if it's going to be what's the Italian's name?
Pizza.
Parolin. If it's gonna be like a Parolin, right? Like those are like Pizza Bala too, to a certain extent, right? Those are gonna be those ones where it's like if it's them, it'll be that first. It'll either be no one's gonna get it on the first day. Not likely, right? Like because there's only one ballot on the first day for those that don't know. But the second day, those 4 ballots, it'll be one of them. If we go into the 3rd or 4th day, that's when it likely will probably be one of those second tier ones that maybe people aren't talking about as much. Of which there was one that was mentioned. Apparently, he's Cardinal Rajit, I think is his name. Which personally I think would be cool because I think he's like an Indian.
But I mean, that was
from Sri Lanka.
And that's the thing. I mean, Ratzinger got it on the second day, and he went in as he's probably the only one, maybe outside of Montini, Paul VI, that went in expected to be Pope.
Yeah. Even Pope Francis was, expected to, people were kind of acting surprised. But if you talk to a lot of like the more insider class, they were like, oh, I mean, because people had already known at that point, oh, he came in second place in the 2005 conclave, and so his chances were already kind of towards the higher end. And sure enough, like that for him, it was less than 24 hours as well. That he was elected. So that'll tell us a little bit too, right? For people who may be like, hey, I don't know how to follow this conclave, what this means. The longer it takes, the more likely of a wild card there is.
Yeah.
The faster it is, the more likely it's someone that we have probably heard the name of at some point.
Yeah. And I mean, and as I told the people at Mass this morning, it's like watch Shoes of the Fisherman, avoid Conclave.
Oh gosh, I mean,
I finally watched it. Yeah.
Oh no, I'm so sorry.
No, I mean, up until the very end, up until about the last 10 minutes, it's good. I'm ish.
Yeah, I think it's a well-made movie. No doubt about it whatsoever. It's a well-made movie, but it definitely leans way too much into the political machinations behind the scenes. It's like, okay, I'm not saying that there's not political stuff that might happen, but when you have, it's like, I'm sorry, what Cardinals have brought in a sister from another country because of some relationship in the past? It's like, wait a minute, okay, hold on.
That was never explained.
And it's just like, I'm sorry, like, are they trying to connect that to a previous situation? Because I don't remember that ever being mentioned at any point, right? But there's some things in there that I think are good. But yeah, I think that if you're wanting to know how conclaves work, do not watch Conclave, because it'll give you some things, but it's really filled a lot of anti-Catholic sentiments. You just kind of tell that the guy who made it was very what's the word I'm looking for? Very much trying to be critical of the church. Because let's just say the liberals are painted in a much like quote liberals are painted in a much brighter light than the only quote conservative cardinal who is like made out to be the worst person ever.
Yeah, frothing at the mouth.
Yes.
It's just a total cardboard straw man.
Yeah. I'm trying to find the Shoes of the Fisherman, at least a clip of it.
Yeah. But that's the other quote for people wondering that also is always, I think, useful for me is the one who walks in as Pope walks out as a cardinal. If you think that you're going to get it. And that's why, people have been, talking a lot about Cardinal Parolin saying, hey, they're going to maybe back to the Italians. I think that he's too political, honestly. I think he's too political of a choice to really get it. And I think that his most recent move where he brought this letter that, again, this is about as conclave as it's gotten so far. He has this letter that mentions how Cardinal Becciu has no voting rights from Pope Francis. It's like, here's this letter right here. It says you can't vote. And it's kind of like okay. I actually think if there were some cardinals who were thinking of voting for him, I think that may have actually hurt him, because that might come across too much.
Are you talking the Italian one that was accused of financial?
So Cardinal Becciu is one of the three, so we have let's talk about the lineage here. So the people who have investigated the Vatican Bank scandals, right, have been people like Cardinal Vigano, we have Archbishop Vigano. We also have, of course, Cardinal Pell. We all know what happened to him. And then Cardinal Becciu. Now, I'm not saying that Cardinal Becciu is innocent. I'm not saying that he's guilty. I'm just saying that it's very convenient for one of the persons investigating the bank to be called on these corruption charges and then now be in a state where he can't go into the conclave, not even just not to vote, but he can't even talk really to the cardinals to say, hey, here's what's going on in the Vatican Bank right now. Here's some of the things that you might need to know about. It's kind of a little convenient that that's not the case. And that's why I think personally, Parolin bringing this letter, right, again, I based on everything that we know, he said that he removed him from the voting rights of that. So I don't doubt that for a second. But again, the fact that it's all coming down from this letter from Parolin, it's like, I think that might actually be enough to make Parolin now no longer as strong of a papabile going in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I found the clip I was going to show. I probably will get struck for this, but
who owns the rights of it?
Well, it's this is from an RU website.
Okay. Oh, if anything, the music will get you.
Yeah. There's always chant in the background.
Yeah.
Let's cut the music on that then.
It's crazy how the Catholic music can always get you.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's beautiful.
I don't think it's letting me.
There's a Swiss Guard?
Yeah.
Do they actually go into the conclave or like?
No, but you'll see. Is the music playing for you now?
No.
No.
Okay, then I did struck it out correctly.
Good.
But I mean, as I told the people, this movie was made in 1968, but it's very faithful in showing how the conclave works.
Oh,
even
it
though
does
the
do that.
chapel
Okay.
doesn't look like that now.
Yeah. Very 1970s carpet.
Fun little fact: if you get to go to the Vatican, you could pay $80 to do breakfast at the Vatican, which gets you into the Sistine Chapel before it opens to the public.
Wow.
Ooh.
Totally
That's not a
worth
bad
the
deal.
money.
I said
I was
that's not a
going to
bad
say
deal at all.
totally worth the price.
Totally
Absolutely.
worth the money.
I said
I
you
actually
get
got to sit
breakfast,
on a bench in there.
you get a breakfast, and you get to go inside the Sistine Chapel. That's a great
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah.
See, I wish I'm going to play. Here we go. See, Anthony Quinn is in it. Sir Laurence Olivier, Leo
Okay.
McKern, the great British actor, John Gilgold.
Was that Gregory Peck?
No, that's true.
Okay.
That's Scarlet and the
Quinn.
Black.
Okay.
The guy that he just showed was Montag in the movie Fahrenheit 451.
Mm. Yeah, there was
Which is a
one guy
later
earlier
version
on.
of the book.
Yeah, it was like that guy who was like, oh, kind of looks like Gregory Peck, but
Yeah, that's Anthony Quinn there.
Anthony Quinn. Gotcha.
Looking younger. Yeah.
Leo McKern is the one that played the prosecutor in Man for All Seasons.
Oh, I love that film so much.
Yeah.
So if
I've
you
seen
know
it
the
more
fat
than
guy I'm
Phil.
talking about, that's Leo McKern.
Yeah.
See,
Now I guess the other thing,
how
crescendo.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is just music. There's no talking yet.
Yeah, they don't make movies like this anymore, for sure.
No. Here we go. I'll play this part.
Well,
Ad Orientem.
Yep.
Oscar Werner is the name I was looking for. And Conclave does that too.
Gaudere per Christum Domine nostrum.
I know it's a terrible show, but the one thing I love about a show like The Young Pope or The New Pope or whatever the name of it is it's like, I know he's like, it's terrible, but it's like, I kind of want a Pope like that.
Oh dear.
So you got the extra ominous there.
Yeah. And then
I think we can skip it up.
So fun fact to the people watching. So, you know, the name Conclave itself is a fun history to it, right? Because it means essentially, you know, locked door or like some connection to keys being locked in. And there was I think it was at the 11 or 1200s, there was a conclave where it took about 2 years, 9 months. And so the people of the area, because I don't think that one was actually in Rome. It was Viterbo, I think it was.
I can't remember.
And so the people of Viterbo were so mad that they locked the cardinals inside the building, ripped the roof off the building so that they had to be exposed to the elements. And then they came to a decision pretty quickly. And since that time, there has been this locking of the people into the Sistine Chapel.
I don't remember the character's name from the movie, but I absolutely hate how they portray the conservative.
Yeah, the Orthodox one, right? Yeah.
It's like
they really played him up as a trope, because at the end of it, it's like, we need to do a holy war against the Muslims and all that stuff.
Yep.
It's like
he goes full bore, and you're just like, wait a minute, because everything up to that point, you're like, I don't see why this guy is so bad. Everything he's saying sounds pretty orthodox, right? And then he goes off on that tangent, and you're just thinking to yourself, oh, okay, so this is what they think about the Orthodox. Whereas like every other candidate in there is essentially progressive. They're just differing, varying degrees of progressive. The only interesting thing to me was the reaction to the African cardinal, because they were like, we're not ready for an African, basically. And I thought that was a little bit interesting, because they never really went into at all what his mindset was or what his belief was. They just focused on the fact that he was from Africa. And then, of course, the craziness with, he had a child 30 years ago. And oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Did that conservative Catholic cardinal say this is MAGA country at the end of his speech?
No, but I will say our band kids took a trip to Chicago this weekend, And I told one of my students his assignment is not to go out at night in a MAGA hat in south part of Chicago.
Getting Subway.
Oh dear. Absolutely not. Definitely not. Definitely not at 2 in the morning. Yeah. Well, I've been telling anyone that'll listen to stay away from almost all coverage, including perhaps even things that are friendly, if you will, to our points of view, because especially though the MSM, they're going to try to discourage you. They're going to try to make you disheartened. They're going to try to make you anxious and fearful. They're going to try to make everything that you feel about all of this make you feel it's hopeless. And that's not the way that we are supposed to not only look at things, but that's also not how we're supposed to look at the Pope. This isn't an election.
Let me get my logo off here.
But you're right. You're absolutely right. It's not supposed to be a political election, but it is so funny how he does look like St. John Vianney.
Oh, he does.
He does. Well, there you are. There you are.
He does. But that's St. John Vianney, patron saint of priests, who is the doppelganger of the Doctor, the first one.
Yeah, we learned the truth. We learned the absolute truth about this. Well, Cardinal Burke put up a novena, I think that he started today, about a prayer for a new pope. I mean, frankly, that's what our job is right now, besides praying for the repose of pardon me. Oh my gosh, I almost did it. It's because there's only one Francis. The only Pope Francis is the repose of his soul, which in our charity we need to continue to do. The fifth day of the novena for his soul was yesterday. But also pray for the conclave, pray for a holy pope, pray for the cardinals that are going to be voting.
Yeah, and I am required, all the priests of our diocese are required to say at least 3 masses for his soul. Just as we would any priest that dies, just because of the need of the office he held. He's in more need of our prayers than anybody else. And that's the thing that, and I don't want to go down the political road of the homily, but that's the thing that just drove me nuts about. We ask him to pray for us now, which we can, but we can't assume he's in heaven.
Well, can the souls in purgatory pray for us? So I thought that they could. They just can't pray for themselves.
I think so.
So technically,
I mean, they can pray for themselves because basically purgatory is literally the working off of the temporal effects of sin. So there's going to be some elements of penance within the actions itself of simply existing within purgatory. But that's also why they need extra prayers from us, right? So that way they get extra help there. But I just going back to the homily, there's a lot of issues in the homily, but that to me was a big one because again, I understand what they were trying to do. They were trying to be like let's kind of close the circle. When he was first elected, he said, pray for me. And so now let's kind of have this reversal, but it definitely sets a really bad tone, especially when you have this mainstream audience and this mainstream media that's already really trying to canonize him in so many ways. And it really just shows you also the problems of our current mindset within the Vatican and within the church of just everything is just hyper papalized, right? Everything is about people creating this almost celebrity identity to the popes, going all the way. I mean, really, it started back in a big way with John Paul II, right? Because he was just this rock star. And again, growing up, like everyone was like, oh, JP2, we love you, right? As soon as he died, it was immediately calls for sainthood and everything like that. So I get it, but it's such a dangerous precedent because one leaves us with the inability to pray for the repose of their souls after they die. And that's a bad thing. We should be praying for the repose of the souls because we really don't know. We don't know what he was like at the end of his life. We don't know whether he had that final moment of grace, right?
I'm assuming he got the apostolic pardon because, I mean, it's not like he exactly popped off.
Oh, no. But it's more of a, like, we don't know where he was. Because even if you receive all of that, right, if he, at the end of his life, had this disconnect, right, that could be enough. And again, we just don't know. And that's why, that goes back to why we have to pray for them. Because only God can know what was in his heart and his soul at that moment.
I am going to try to share. There it is. This is a cartoon I show my, oops, I had it and I lost it.
So speaking of the prayers, as you're looking for, there's a great app called Intercede. It used to be called the Pray app or the Pray Novenas app, and now it's just called Intercede. And I recommend it highly. It's great for novenas, especially. It gives notifications. It's easy to follow. And there's a great one right now for Pope Francis. It has not only a prayer for him, but attached to the same exact novena is also attached the prayer for the conclave. And it's the same prayer written by Bishop Athanasius Schneider, which I think is a great one.
Can you read the comment here?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. She's removing the temporal punishment due to sin, Father.
Well, that's one way to do it. Oh my goodness gracious.
So as I was telling Odin, I don't think you heard, Miss Martin, the assignments came out and I'm leaving the classroom this fall. Which I'm at peace with it. Odin is 20 years younger than me. He has a lot more energy than me. I just turned 50 and I'm old enough to be my kids' parents.
Yeah.
So it was not expected, but I'm fine with it. My dad's fighting cancer. It's going to give me a chance to go home to see my parents more. So
okay. Well, sorry.
I have a lot more free time now, which honestly, I'm excited because it's going to allow me to really focus more on being a priest rather than trying to get stuff ready for class every day and grading and all that stuff.
Did you have a full load, Father?
I had 2 sections. So I had about 60 students altogether.
Oh, okay. So not, yeah. Yeah.
But I'm also, as Odin knows also, I'm never on the stream on Mondays, although tomorrow I can. I'm chaplain for our soccer teams. So
Yay.
I'm at almost all their games.
Oh, well done.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, I've had a much rockier road in the education area. I'm never going back, and I absolutely will never work for a Catholic school ever again. But even public school, no. So I'm just a consultant now. I've spent half my career in Catholic school and got out of that. It depends on where you are. Of course, we need to pray. A lot of people, I think, keep saying a lot, oh, get your kid out of public school, put them in private school, put them in Catholic school. I said, be careful. And people, I think that you can just shove them in a private school, put them in a Catholic school, and everything's going to be just fine. It's like, no, you need to be more vigilant, and you need to pray for the teachers, pray for the people in charge of these schools, because Satan, like a roaring lion, is roaring around trying to whoops, knock over my microphone. I got there we go. But definitely it's rough out there in the education world, and we need to pray for teachers like Odin. Woo.
Yeah.
Well, Snarter Poopus had a good comment here. It took 40 years for Paul VI to be canonized. I was just looking up. It took about 45 years for Pius X to be canonized.
Mm-hmm. And that's pretty quick when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we'll live to see Pius XII canonized.
No,
for some reason I thought he already had been.
No,
that's Fulton Sheen that's supposed to. Bishop Sheen is supposed to be canonized or beatified, but
that one.
That is weird.
Well, I mean, if you look into it, it was very political how it all happened.
Yeah, between the Diocese of Peoria, where he grew up, and
I think it was Cardinal Dolan.
Yeah.
Was he?
I think
they were fighting over the body, who had the jurisdiction and all that.
How very medieval of them. When you hear about those stories, like the Dominicans going to fighting the Franciscans and the different dioceses. Yeah, no, it's good times. But no, I mean, we definitely need to pray.
Yeah, I was telling our 7th graders this week, talking to them about the conclave. I talked about the corpse trial.
Oh, yay, good times. Yeah. Well, he probably had it coming.
Was it Boniface VIII dug up his predecessor because he hated him, put the body in the papal robes, condemned the body after a trial, threw it in the Tiber after cutting off the canonical digits.
Now, was that apocryphal, though?
I think it was the extra stuff, I think. Because I think it was a political move, because this was his way of being able to delegitimize any of the persons that he had chosen to either be, bishops or cardinals, because if he is declared a heretic, then that means anyone that he has declared as whatever position. And I think after a long time, because obviously the church works in centuries, it does not work in years.
They say this sounds very Donatist.
Yeah. And so I think that it took a little bit after that, they were able to be like, okay, no, that was not legitimate, and all the people that he had appointed were legitimate.
So when do you think go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, just looking into like the list of, like, if you just look at how many popes were canonized, the other issue too with the more recent canonizations is that there's never been these amount of popes like in this amount of time being all canonized. And that's why even going back to the one with Paul VI, right? He mentioned the Snorpupus, I think, was the one brought up like 40 years to be canonized. And even that was still a bit too quick, I think. And really, it all that honestly comes down to, and this is why we really need an Orthodox Pope. And we need an Orthodox Pope who also is willing to talk and engage about some of the issues around Vatican II. Again, it's because there are too many things that have, I think, legitimate questions about that are just ignored, cast aside, and they need to be addressed for long. Like there needs to be official commentaries, official meetings, official whatevers to really address that issue. Because another big problem that's come from it is that it honestly feels like a lot of these canonizations have been political and have been, we're trying to canonize Vatican II versus we're trying to canonize these individual persons for heroic acts.
Which canonization would you say?
I would say every single one from Vatican II, from John the 23rd all the way through.
Oh, you mean you're talking the popes then?
The popes specifically. Yes.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, all of the ones from the popes, because again, you look at some of those, you look at some of them and how the canonizations came about and how fast they came about. Especially, it really does feel, especially when you look at like John Paul II, because John Paul II, I believe, was canonized at the same exact time as John the 23rd.
Yeah.
And you think to yourself, like, but wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense, because if you look at both of them, anyone would tell you John Paul II actually was viewed in many ways as much more of a saint in the eyes of most people than John the 23rd was. And it's like, you put them on the same level. Like that already, it's like, okay, clearly you're trying to do something.
But they would also have to have the miracles attributed to them.
Yes.
Their intercession. So, I don't know. I was reading a comment, and I'm actually really agreeing with it. I think they should wait 50 years before they start the process for popes.
I think that's wise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there has to be a legitimate calling for it, right? And that's the other thing too, I think, that's been lost, is that it's the Vatican picking and choosing certain things to look into versus having an actual like community, a town, a city to have a devotion to specifically a person who then drive that cause for canonization forward. Because I think also with some of these popes, you didn't have that. And so it's kind of like wait, how is their cause pushed forward other than them being a part of Vatican II? Like there really isn't as big of a reason.
I can't go into it. I don't really know the history of their canonization process.
Well, one thing about some of those Vatican II aspects of it, I think that Benedict was doing a very good job with a lot of the work that he did. And I'm still not over him renouncing the papacy the way he did. Obviously, there was a reason that he felt like he had to do that the Holy Spirit was calling him to do it. But it was very shocking. And the things that Francis so immediately was revoking that he had done, because I was there, when we were just so happy with what he did with the document about freeing up the traditional Latin Mass, if you will.
Pontificum.
Thank you. For everybody, for rather priests. So, in other words, that, like you, Father, you could have done it. Everyone could have. If you were a valid priest of the Roman Rite, it was ordinary for you, if you chose to do it, you could do that Mass. And for some reason, that was taken back when there was a lot of fruit. We saw a lot of fruit of the Holy Spirit. I was a little bit part of it because I'm not necessarily a traditional Catholic and all that. I'll go to any valid Mass, but I just happened to kind of through osmosis.
That's the thing I never understood myself.
Yeah, it just didn't make any sense. It was very beautiful. And the whole thing is like, we had the new Mass, we have the extraordinary form, the Latin Mass, the ordinary, the Anglican use Mass. I mean, we have all these different Masses, and why
the translation
come down on people?
English, the translation of the English from Latin is a lot more faithful now.
Yeah, what Benedict did, that was a good thing.
The new, I hate using the term the new missal, but the new translation of the missal. The reason I did my MA thesis on the Roman canon, because I had been to the old Mass and loved the English translation. And I'm thinking it's a different prayer, not knowing it was the Roman canon, which is Eucharistic Prayer 1. I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's a lot just that we didn't know. And I don't understand the whole quenching of the spirit. It was a very odd time to be in, and as I've said before, something that is very discouraging. Because if we look at it, most dioceses, if they had like a regular Latin mass, it was maybe 1 or 2, and it usually wasn't even during the normal time for mass. It used to be like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So what was the threat, the quote unquote threat? Why did they feel like they had to do that? I think I know what the answer is, but it's
There
just
are two
been
things. There are two things, because in the first, what parishes saw the most growth over that length of time, especially COVID. COVID really exposed a lot more people to it because of the online masses, because people were like, oh, wait, these masses are happening. Wait, these masses are available. And so that, for one, like just kind of exploded it. So for one, they were the fastest growing parishes, the ones that were either more traditional, and usually that coincided with having at least a traditional mass. And normally it also meant having a very reverent Novus Ordo mass too. Like all that usually tied together. So there were more traditional parishes, grew faster. So that's one aspect. The other is, it's sad to say, but doctrinal, because when you look at those parishes, guess what? Vast majority of them actually believe and follow the teachings of the church. And they can't, and it's sad to say that they, for some reason, said we can't have that. What, we can't have parishes that are, 1, growing, and 2, actually upholding the teachings of the church. And don't even get me started about the whole, oh, well, we sent the survey out to the bishops, and Diamontagna, she did such great coverage of that, and she was like, yeah, that's bunk. And it really bothers me because, and again, I will say it, Father, you don't have to say this or to back me up on it, but the fact that Pope Francis came out and mentioned that in his accompanying letter, it's like, I'm sorry, but Pope Francis, you're lying by saying that this was sent out to all the bishops, that the bishops came back with his commentaries. Like, it was so clear that this was handpicked people, and that there was actually a lot more people who had a lot of positive feedback, and it was handpicked. And so basically it was, I'm sorry, it was a lie. The reasoning behind it, again, had he given his own other reasoning for it, that's one thing. But the fact that he tried to claim the survey data was, to me, one of the most egregious things. And that's why, as I say, we really do need to pray for his soul. I'm sorry. We really do need to pray for his soul.
And again, I mean, I know Odin has promised to pay my way through the fraternity if I will learn the old mass. I have a hard enough time with English, but I don't understand why anybody that wants to do it has to go to Rome to get the permission instead of his bishop. Because that's the way I always understood it, is go to your bishop, and that's fine. I'm fine with that. But the idea that you got to go make Muhammad go to the mountain, I just don't get it.
Yeah, well, especially because this is the patrimony of a priest. You have a right, if you will, right, to do it if you are a Catholic priest in the Latin rite. I was also going to add, Odin, I thought this was going to be your second reason. The third reason is vocations. That's another good one. They were starting to get worried that come 20, 30 years, like they're not making God bless them. There's not a lot of priests that are coming from something that's more progressive. And I even don't like the word progressive. I think it's actually quite regressive, because it's anything but progressive. They don't want to move forward. They want to hold the church back.
Heterodox.
Yeah, what they're doing is, but when you talk about sisters and nuns and priests, and not only were groups like the Latin Mass communities or the priestly fraternity St. Peter bursting at the seams, but also, like Odin was saying, that the parishes that kind of got infected in a good way by it, they were making priests, they were making bishops, and priests and nuns and monks and all of that. So vocations were really thriving and going in the right direction. It seemed like we were turning a corner, and then they just slammed the door. And it's like, wait, do you want priests or don't you? Do you want nuns or don't you? Do you want sisters or don't you?
It's one of the things that has not been talked about with Vatican II, and it needs to. Look at how many sisters there were before that time and how many there were after.
Well, I'm not doxing myself. I know the two of you know where I'm from, but I just had my third student ordained a priest.
Woo!
Well, actually, nice. Fourth. Three of them I had asked if they had ever thought of being a priest. The fourth one entered the seminary after I was done teaching. I have a kid that I taught probably 7-8 years ago that's entering theology this fall. We have nuns that are, I have to leave in probably 25 minutes to go do benediction for cloistered sisters.
Yeah.
I mean,
there are vocations for sure.
We have vocations.
I'm just saying, like, when it comes specifically to sisters, when it comes specifically to that vocation, there was like 100 and what, again, these numbers may not be completely accurate, but for equivalency, there was like 180,000 nuns prior to Vatican II. And then with the changes of Vatican II and the quote spirit of Vatican II, it dropped to like 80,000. Like there was
you compare the Nashville Dominicans to Mother Drexel's order.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Mother Drexel's order is, they had to sell the mother house because there's no nuns.
Yep.
They moved her body to the Basilica, St. Catherine Drexel's body to the Basilica because they had to sell the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Yet the Nashville Dominicans, I've been to their convent. It's amazing.
Oh, we have religious sisters in our area too, and they're phenomenal. They are fantastic. And that's why I think those more traditional orders, even though
Sisters
like
for life,
they're Novus Ordo, they're quote traditional only in the sense of like saying that they are, wearing the full habit and they are, really living out their vocation. Those are the ones that do better. That's why all the orders where they have no requirement to wear anything like other than like a dress code. It's like, I'm sorry, that's
I could do that without becoming a nun.
That's the fun thing I did in class was when Council of Trent came out, it decreed that priests and religious had to wear distinctive clothing.
Mm-hmm.
So in class, to show this point, I showed a slide with Father Richard McBrien, Father Charles Curran, and some university professor. They're all in suits.
Yep.
So I told them they have to guess which one is not the priest. And I had Big Bird singing in the background. One of these things is not like the other.
Yeah.
And then we did that with the sisters, which was 2 old grandmother and 1 nun.
Yep, exactly. Well, and the reason why they're old.
Sorry.
Oh no, I was just going to say is that's the thing as well. I mean, if you're going to ask someone, like for example, the question put to me, do you want to give up sex, obedience, or sex? It's more than that, I know. Sex, obedience, and your money to just be like everybody else. It's like, well, I could just be a lay person, maybe even get married and do all that. There's more to the religious vocation than you just want to serve people.
I will say one of my hopes with the new Pope is that he will accept Kupich's retirement because he's 76 now.
Yep.
And this is one of his priests. I don't know if you guys know this one.
Oh, I do.
Yes, the father of Michael Flager.
The fact that he's allowed to be a priest
of Chicago.
He should have been removed years ago. See, that's the thing that is so discouraging. What we were saying earlier, it's like, okay, I can understand Pavone, but how's this guy then still a priest?
I see it. Yeah, no, Cardinal George tried to remove him, and it became a game of chicken that Cardinal George lost. Anyway, I'm going to bring up the link Odin sent me.
Yeah, that was more of a, in case we wanted to go more into like the conclave itself, because I don't know if y'all have seen this before, but it's a really good site that just breaks down information as far as who are considered the Papabile, where do they stand on certain issues. I think that's a very big one because it actually gives you quotes too. So it doesn't just say supports Latin Mass or supports traditional views of marriage or anything, but it gives you actual quotes in either of those cases. And it's something where it's like, man, I really, really hope that the Cardinals are looking at something like this, before going in, because I think it's important for them because, Pope Francis there's not been a meeting of the bishops, I think, since 2015 where all of them have been together. So a lot of these cardinals just don't know each other because they've never really been brought in.
This is done by Sophia.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty good.
Oh, yay. Mm-hmm. You're good.
Edward Penton, he's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I forget exactly where it is that has... Oh, yeah. So if you go up to the little like hamburger thing, it's where they stand. It's right there. Hamburger? So this is my favorite part because it tells you what they say about ordaining female deacons, blessing same-sex couples, making priestly celibacy optional. And it tells you, hey, this is where it's unconclusive, or hey, here's where it's ambiguous. And if you hover over it, it tells you why they get a check mark or why they get an ambiguous or why they get an X. And then you can reduce that down to Papabile, which brings it down to 22 different cardinals. And so it's like, okay, these are the names that I'll be hoping and praying to hear.
Burke, I love Burke. Yeah. Well, to be fair, Francis, he did that famous no when asked about the priesthood or the deacons.
Oh, yeah.
So
I'll tell you what really grinds my gears. I heard it for the first time in a few years is the "Who am I to judge" comment.
Mm-hmm.
Which
is just totally out of context.
Yeah, I was about ready to say it. So, which is why we need to have a pope who speaks fluently all the major languages, especially English, because they did take advantage of that.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, the one good thing is Cardinal Sarah is 79 for another 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
Woohoo.
So he can vote.
No.
And that's why he if it's gonna be someone like him, that I think means that it will happen pretty quickly. Like the ones that are the ones that most people are talking about, those are the ones where it's like, okay, if it's gonna be them, we're gonna find out within the first like day or two. And then if it ends up being someone where maybe they're younger, again, just like with John Paul II, right? It took longer for them because they were probably weighing that, all right, this guy's really young. He could be Pope for like 20, 30 years. He could really set things right. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens with that.
Yeah. Very interesting. Focusing on climate change.
Yep.
It's like, that's a prudential matter. This has been part of the issues that I've been having the last 10 years, is they're acting like prudential issues are dogma and that dogma is prudential. It's not like climate change stuff. That is a matter of opinion. That is not even really necessarily something that the Holy Father should be weighing in on, except for the fact of, if he's talking in general about we need to be good stewards of the earth, because of course we should.
But if you look at Parolin's line and going through all the different issues, that's the only reason why you'll likely see him be a potential, Papabile, because he is, he's a diplomat, and so he doesn't really have a lot of stances. So he has a lot of ambiguous marks in the different views. Like when you have that pulled up, there's a lot of ambiguous language. There's one mark where it's like, okay, he actually does agree with blessing same-sex couples. So he was supportive of that, but a lot of the other things he is seen as ambiguous on. I think even the restrictions on the Latin Mass, he was seen as being ambiguous on that too.
Trying to find Parolin. That's with the
you got to go back to where they stand.
Oh.
And then have it set to Papabile.
Wow.
There you go.
You've been on this site.
I have.
Yeah.
See, there's Parolin.
There it is.
Woo.
So it says no to female deacons, ambiguous on
70. That's interesting. You think they elect someone that young?
I don't know.
I mean, to think that Francis could have been the Pope in 2005.
Oh, he's 70.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think absolutely, because they would still view that in a certain light as being not necessarily transitional, but they would say, okay, he's going to be Pope for what, 10 to 15 years. I think that's where they would go with him. Is the reason why a Parolin would be voted is because, as you can see, he's very ambiguous on a lot of these issues. And because he's old enough to where he'd be able to be Pope long enough to where if he plays the diplomat role, he could maybe bring sides together that previously were not talking or getting along very well. It could actually in that way maybe be to a benefit when it comes to the Latin Mass community, because maybe he'll be able to find a way to bridge that. I think the issue is that he might be just a bit too status quo. He's not going to want to rock the boat, which means synodality is going to keep going forward. I think he actually is very pro synodality. I think that was one of the things where it's like there was like a check mark as far as his view on synodality. And honestly, I really think that we just need something new. We need something different.
I wonder what the chances are going back to Italian. I mean, it's been almost 50 years.
Hey, I think it was Ms. Mamusis who mentioned it, right? Pizza Balla. That to me is like that. That's the one where it's like there's the
maybe Gary will become Catholic if that happens.
I know, right? When you have a name like Pizza Balla, That's something that's going to get the online attention. In addition to like he and Sarah to me are kind of the same cloth because they just both come across as very holy people. You know, the fact that Pizzaballa was willing to literally sacrifice himself to put himself in the place of the Israeli captives. It's like that's a big deal. With Sarah, you look at his work on silence, you look at like just his general demeanor, and you're just like, okay, this just people in general say he's a very holy person. And it's like we really kind of need that right now. To really get us, because there really aren't a lot of other cardinals that I can look at. Yeah, exactly.
oh no, I'm against that. No.
Yes.
I love pineapple on pizza. Yeah, the memes are going to be great. That's the
heaven
best reason
save us from that. Heaven save us. It'll be interesting.
Yeah. Who do y'all think? Who are y'all? I mean, again, first off, too, do not anyone watching, do not bet any money on this. Yeah. At one point, they say that's not the case anymore. I'm pretty sure it still is. But it is definitely very sinful to bet on papal elections. So
I did not know that.
Don't do that. At one point, it was like an excommunicatable offense. I don't know if that's still the penalty, but it's definitely a grave sin, at least.
That reminds me.
Definitely if you're a cardinal and if you got an inside information. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Well,
you know, the only I was not surprised by Ratzinger.
Oh no one was. I mean, I was so excited.
I mean, you could put money on that one, but there's nobody like a Ratzinger. I mean, maybe Sarah, but this betting on the elections got me thinking of a video from Pawn Stars where somebody brought a relic of Catherine Drexel into the store trying to sell it.
Oh.
And the translation is amazing here. Here we go.
Good. How are you doing?
All right, I got this relic.
My name is Kristen Slonsky, and I'm a classical linguist at the University of Nevada at Las Vegas. I love to teach, and I love to translate everything. I spend a typical Friday night translating the Aeneid from Virgil. Rick, do you have any questions?
Yeah, what kind of relic that is? I mean, we couldn't read this to find out what it was.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping you can figure all this out for me.
Oh. Universis et singulis praesentes litteras inspectores. In the medieval ages, whenever you possessed a relic, that was considered a very important item, and they would only bring it out in very important events for blessings. When you're dealing with relics, normally it would be some kind of bodily tissue. It could be blood, hair, skin, tears, something like that, something that was directly on her person. My best
like
guess
Father
is
Paul's
that
in
it's
the
a piece
background.
of skin, or it could be ashes after she was cremated. We really don't know.
She wasn't cremated.
That's weird. So what does it say?
It says,
here it is.
To all and each, pretty much everyone in the world, we warn the faithful, and warn is a very strong word, into whose hands these sacred relics shall come to be, that they are permitted in no way in the name of God to sell them, nor to exchange them with such things which bear the presence or facade of marketing.
That means if I buy it, I'm going to go to hell?
Pretty much.
You're going there anyhow, son.
Oh, no. You're going there anyhow.
Father Apple, good to see you.
It's funny you're showing that. I found a relic of Maria Goretti a couple weeks ago at the Salvation Army. I bought the case. I didn't buy the relic, but none of the ladies there knew the story, so I got to tell them the whole story, and they were fascinated. So it's in my office.
It's almost like watching somebody buy the statue of Saint Joseph so they could bury it upside down.
Well, with those relics, I think when her devotion was really big, I think you could actually write to Rome and they'd send them out to the parishes. And I saw at that time in whatever they had brought in that week was a bunch of Catholic books, and I thought, oh, one of our ladies must have died and her kids put all the stuff here and didn't know what the relic was. So we have it now at the church.
So it just hit me. Beard, no beard.
And I can guarantee you there is no beard behind this rose. But lots of long curly hair.
So if you guys don't know me, I was in this minor seminary with Father Miller. So I've known him for years.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that you've had to put up with it for that long.
I didn't have to put up with him for that long. He went to Nebraska.
Thanks.
Okay.
I'm still in Iowa.
No. I'll be back in Father Apple's area next week because I'm going back home to baptize my great niece.
Nice.
So
I didn't know they still had minor seminaries because I thought those kind of disappeared.
College.
Oh, that's what they call it. Oh, my fault. I was thinking when it was back in like 8th grade.
No,
well,
college.
This was still college, but we were getting our philosophy degree done there. What did you end up with there from Ambrose?
Business,
yeah.
But I also started playing with the internet during that time. And
Because
that's
you did
the road
an
I went
internship
down.
in EWTN when it was still conservative.
Ooh. I'll be honest, I told my friend that works down there, after a day being in the chapel, being in class for hours and studying, the last thing I want to do is sit down and watch more theology.
Yeah. Because people ask me, "Oh, did you listen to Relevant Radio yesterday, Father?" I'm like, "Oh, no."
Yeah.
I live and breathe it all the time. When I'm in the car, it's usually rock and roll.
So, well, I got to ask Odin, since he said he watched EWTN, was Raymond on it?
No, he was not. At
That's
least
a good thing.
Not the part that I was there. No, he should have been on it to provide balance. Because it was very rose tinted. Very, very rose tinted in its coverage. At least the part I was listening to at the very end, because it started going into he'll be buried next to these confessionals, and it's so appropriate because he was all about mercy, and it's like, again, all that stuff being true, but like the way it was just very glowing, very, very, very glowing. And I'm just like, look, I understand, right? You don't want to have a show when he's getting buried just going after him, right? But you also got to be a bit careful not to, fall into that. That's why I think the best coverage you probably could have watched would have been just the generic, hey, here's what it is, here's the translations, and just no opining.
That's what I did. It was the Vatican media. I mean, they did a little commentary, explaining what's happening, but
but that's
how long? How long until we get a movie on the life of Pope Francis?
Oh, it's being worked out right now.
Is it?
Oh, most likely. Well, the way they're talking, and it's like, unlike other popes or other priests, they're acting like these are all firsts that Francis did, and not to take anything away from his priesthood, but other popes have done that too. Like they're trying to say, oh, he has a simple tombstone, and then everyone shows the one of Benedict XVI. It's like, it's like it's not new, these things, and they're acting like it's unique to Francis.
Well, they were saying it's a simplified funeral, right? It's like I didn't see anything different.
Well, and even going to Mary Major, that one has been kind of spoiled for me because that's where Cardinal Law was buried.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
But, yeah, Cardinal Law was the one. Was he Boston?
Yeah,
that was all the abuse was happening.
Oh gosh,
and he was a big benefactor of Mary Major, and he was the steward of it before he died. That's where they kind of put him after he was kicked out of America. And you go to the one-hand side. Our tour guide wouldn't even take us there because he said the Americans get so scandalized if they see it. But he came back and showed me and the other priest a picture of his tomb. It's right there on the side of the church.
Yeah. On the other hand,
that's the thing that was frustrating.
There too.
He was.
Well, I think Father Apple and I were talking about Mahoney being one of the cardinals that got to enclose the casket or the coffin for Francis. And I found out the only reason he got to do that is because of his seniority as one of the oldest living cardinals.
He was Los Angeles?
Yeah. 84, I think he is.
And
then Gomez comes out there. Gomez is Opus Dei, and Gomez hasn't even got the red hat.
Yeah. There's been a lot of disappointing things. Wasn't it Philadelphia and LA that they didn't get a red hat? Or is it San Francisco that didn't get a red hat?
St. Louis used to have one.
Yeah. Philadelphia's impact has waned. And again, I say it because I have connections in Philly. I went to school in Philly. It's not the powerhouse that it used to be 20, 30 years ago.
But also, I think probably part of that was because of Chaput being there.
Yeah, they didn't want to give it to him.
Yeah. And then, the bigger scandal is actually in California, right? Because it's you said it was in San Francisco,
San Diego,
right? Because it's like that one is one where it's like actually like it's very surprising by most people that has not got. It's like until you realize, oh, it's because they,
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were referring to the guy that got the Cardinals hat.
Oh, no. So San Diego got the Cardinals hat, but then it was San Francisco who didn't, right?
Right.
Exactly. And you're like, oh, how does that make sense?
Well, I think it was Los Angeles that always got the hat, not San Francisco.
Yeah, but when you give it to San Diego and then not to San Francisco.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't you popes playing up in here.
Yeah, we fear change in the Catholic Church, and that's a good thing. And we need something steady. We want a captain. We don't want to get seasick anymore. We don't want to get airsick. Let's have a nice, smooth flight. Now, I know that, of course, as Catholics, we know we're not going to have a smooth flight, that we're going to have persecution, all this. But hey, don't make it harder for us than it has to be. All right?
Mm-hmm.
Help us out.
I was making this point because I saw, there are people on the more like traditional side on especially on X that just drive me crazy with some things. Like, so there was one guy going off about how Cardinal Pell's body was being treated, and like a lot of the stuff that it was being said, I was like, you can't actually prove that was like the Vatican doing those things, and just it was very uncharitable, I think. But I like one of the things that I've also kind of noticed is when it comes to how the Pope Francis pontificate's being mentioned, like the one things that I've tried to always make clear is saying, well, if anything, Pope Francis has proven to us that God exists, because even amidst all of the chaos and the turmoil, guess what? We had some of the biggest numbers this past Easter Vigil across our country.
Yeah, we brought a ton in this year at our church. It was crazy.
We did too.
And a lot of
and look at Twitter, all the people talk about becoming Catholic this year. It's been blowing up.
And a lot of
the New York Post had that article about it.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the funny thing too, is that there's so much of this on kind of Catholic, the blogosphere. You've got all these people that think the church is collapsing, and yet we just got a new bishop here in our diocese, and he's like just a normal guy. It's like he was a good parish priest. He's got good theology. When he went to new bishop school, he was talking about how much care they put into talking about how they wanted to build unity among all the faithful, and they wanted their bishops to be dynamic and build the church up, and it's just talking about all the things they want them to do out there in their dioceses. And it's not like this push to make the church some socialist, humanist, heretical collection of weird ideas. I'm not really seeing that. And then I work in the tribunal, and we'll get letters from the signatura that say, now, Father, when you declare marriage null on this ground, make sure you're applying the law properly. So, I mean, they're still concerned about all the rules and the tradition and all that. I just think it's funny when you have someone at the top who's signaling other things, but down below, the church is still being the same as it's ever been.
Well, the Holy Spirit's still with us, and I think that that's something for us also to keep in mind, because I think it has been a great catechetical moment. Like, I don't know how many times I've explained to my family throughout the pontificate of Francis, this was not a matter of faith and morals, that what the Pope says is I don't have to just believe it and give assent to everything he says.
Yeah, but again, that goes back to how they distort it with who am I to judge?
Yeah. Well, of course they.
Yeah, but don't sell too many Catholics short on that. I mean, most Catholics, I think, know the difference between right and wrong. And you got a few people that really get thrilled and the shiver goes up their spine when they hear that. But most people are like, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just. I think one of the articles, it was either from Crisis or Catholic World Report, talked about how we're just tired. And really, that's the way I felt.
Culture war weariness.
Well, also think about like some of the, and it's interesting too, because some of the more critical YouTube channels, especially of Pope Francis, all kind of indicated, especially with like in the wake of his death, they were like, man, wouldn't it be nice if from like this point forward, the channel could be dedicated to talking about the, theology of St. Thomas Aquinas, to, all these things that we could really break down and go into, and not having to constantly be like, okay, let's talk about now the new thing that's been said this week. And so I think, again, as I said, I was saying from the beginning, we need a very, very clear Orthodox Pope right now, who's not going to make things so confusing for everybody by not really, taking a lot of care to specify what they mean when they say certain things.
Yeah, and I think if I was the Pope's advisor, I'd say no more of these little question and answer things on the airplane.
On the airplane,
yeah, that's it, and no more interviews off the record with some atheist. You got to tightly control that message.
Yeah, you need to let your yes be yes, your no be no. Anything more is from the evil one.
And then if you want to say something controversial, then you kind of you trot out one of your underlings to go out and just kind of float a new idea and see let them take all the flack. not from the popes, not from the Pope. That just makes no sense.
Yeah, that's where I'm saying that we need to really pray for the new Pope to have the virtue of prudence and to increase in prudence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'll have to, let me see if I can bring up that site. I don't think Father Apple saw the site that Odin shared.
Yeah, I have one that should link you to having all the different things on. So it's the College of Cardinals report.
Okay. Yep.
It's in the private chat.
That's hysterical.
What?
No, it's just funny that it's all just like laid out so clearly.
Oh yeah.
I get those. Used to get those things from the NRA about which politician was for gun control.
Now,
what I like about
here, yep, but it gives you actual quotes, which is nice.
Yeah.
And I was saying before how it's like there's some where you could tell, okay, these would be kind of Francis 2.0 type papacies, and that's, I think right now kind of the most, I guess, like the best argument for someone like a Cardinal Parolin is that he's much more in between than people may have realized, because he's very ambiguous on a lot of these issues. Whereas someone like a Cardinal Zuppi, not nearly as ambiguous on a lot of these issues.
So it's in the chat for anybody that wants to see it. I accidentally posted it in the private chat. It's okay.
Well, that's all right too.
So I got probably about 10 minutes before I got to run.
Mm-hmm.
As I was saying earlier, I got benediction at 8.
So did you hear confessions for Divine Mercy today?
No, I actually had the afternoon off. I had the 3 masses. I had the vigil and 2 of them this morning. I think the one that's in residence here did the confessions.
Mm-hmm.
I had confessions last night. So, I mean, for those watching, I mean, if you want to go to confession for Divine Mercy Sunday, it's 7 days before or 7 days after, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a decent crowd this afternoon, although my associate took most of them, but I got the ones early. And it's funny, you think you've done all these confessions during Lent, but then still on Divine Mercy, you get somebody who's not been for years, and they'll come back and say, well, it was Divine Mercy, so it was time. It's like, well, God's great.
Nice.
We take them all.
Yeah. So,
because then they can receive during Easter.
Yeah.
I think my associate said he had one on a couple weeks ago that been away for 40 years and finally came back.
I had one of those over Lent.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, okay, how much detail do you go into with them? Because, I mean, you're not going to try to nitpick everything.
Oh, how many times per week do you think you did that?
Yeah.
That's 40 years.
Do the math in your head.
Give me a number.
Give me an idea.
Well, and I can tell you what, I go to a Novus Ordo parish, and the lines for confession are always long. And like there's a parish also nearby me where they have like 4 priests like all the time at confessions, and the lines are always full. So sometimes you hear, oh, no one's going to confession, or the communion lines are long. It's like, well, I'm seeing loads of confession lines. So I don't know if it's an increase in that happening or if it's just different places that are different.
I will say, and Father could probably agree with it, when you get the Scroopy in there.
Get on with it. Yes, get on with it.
Oh.
Yeah, get on with it. Yeah, I've got a few people like that go into so much detail and say, I don't need the reason why you did it. I don't care. Just tell me what you did. Let's get on.
Well, and you'll love this, Father. I have in my confessional picture of St. Jose Maria Escriva with the words, don't say this person is annoying, say this person sanctifies me.
Oh, yeah.
When I get a Scroopy coming in, that's what I'm staring at as I'm hearing the confession.
Yeah. Well, we as the faithful, though, we need to be cognizant of the fact that, especially if you're there and there's a long line, like that's when you're brief and to the point. If you want more than that, if you want a longer confession, then you do need to make an appointment and be considerate, because not everyone, has a chance to go to confession all the time, and you need to be charitable. I've seen some things. I think this was on X. It was probably rage bait, where they're like, you shouldn't get frustrated with people that take a long time in line at confession. It's like, well, no, I think you should be, because we are instructed that we need to be kind and considerate to other people as well, and and it can be indulgent if we go on too long.
The thing I think people have to remember is it's not necessary to confess every single venial sin or try to remember every venial they did.
Yeah, because the Mass itself has the power to forgive venial sin. Now, the thing with scrupulosity is that it's driven by fear. And so you have to attack the fear side of it because they're afraid of losing salvation or they're afraid of other ramifications for their behavior. So you have to always be pushing God's mercy for them. Okay, you're here. God is merciful. He wants you in heaven. Don't be driven by fear. So you have to attack the root of that problem. And that's how you work with people on it.
It's hard, though, because some of the scrupulosity ones are a little bit hard of hearing, or you could try to explain it to them. And again, I'm just saying if this is the rare exception, but some, doesn't matter what you say, they just don't comprehend it.
Yeah. Well, and of course, that's where we pray for them. What you just mentioned, Father Apple, I was just thinking about that's a total Martin Luther situation. And the devil is often behind that, that they're trying to get you just to despair of your salvation. He will use any manner, the enemy will use any manner to get at you. And if this is a way that sometimes it can be done. And so all the faithful out there, praise lots of St. Michael the Archangels.
Definitely.
We do that after every Mass here.
So what else did you cover early on? Do we have a schedule for when the elections are going to start?
Between the 6th and the 11th, I think it is.
Okay.
Yeah, the official date has not yet been announced, but that's when the earliest and latest it can start.
Yeah. I'm going to be a bad Catholic and say I want this done before I go on a cruise because I do not want to be on a cruise and being on Pope Watch. So quit being so selfish, Cardinals, and give us a Pope fast.
It should be quick. Once it gets started, for fun facts, the longest in modern history took 5 days. So in the last 100 plus years, 5 days.
Father, we watched part of Shoes of the Fisherman, the conclave scene.
I've seen like the first half of that, but then I fell asleep. Is that worth watching? I'll be honest.
It's slow.
I think you've just hurt his soul a little bit.
No. Odin, I've told you the ending is totally 60s.
Okay.
You know what? I mean, I don't care if I spoil it. Basically, there's a war threatening to happen between China and the world.
Okay, yeah.
Pope basically says he's going to sell all the treasures of the Vatican so that he could feed the world.
Oh boy. I guess no one
okay,
told him.
That is totally 60s there. But I mean, the behind the scenes stuff, I mean, it's...
We should do a little review of some Catholic movies because over 2020 and 2021, I watched as many Catholic movies as I could. And I watched The Scarlet and the Black again. That was really good. Lilies of the Field or Lilies of the Valley. That was really good.
Is that the Sidney Poitier?
Yeah.
Does even Odin know about that one?
I know of it.
That's a start.
What about the one about the Cristero movement, the power and the glory?
For greater glory.
Well, for greater glory, yeah. Power and the glory is Michelangelo. And
no, that's the agony and the ecstasy.
Agony and ecstasy, yeah.
Yeah.
Odin, have you seen The Third Miracle?
No.
With Ed Harris? That's kind of trippy.
Trippy.
Well, here's a one. Did you ever see To Kill a Priest with Ed Harris and Christopher Lambert?
No.
That's kind of it's not exactly, they don't call it, but it's about Jerzy Popolowski, the priest that was kidnapped by the KGB and martyred.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, dang.
Well, would I Confess count?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I've seen I Confess.
Yeah. I think I sent Odin that.
Or the Black Dahlia. There's a lot of Catholic stuff on that one.
And Michelle says The Keys to the Kingdom. I have not seen The Keys to the Kingdom. I know of it.
The ones that I love are Beckett. It's a phenomenal movie. And then, of course, Man for All Seasons. Phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
When I watched that, it made me really think just how much it was based on the stage play because it really looks like a stage play. Yeah.
The acting. I mean, Paul Scofield was so good. So good in that. Nevertheless, it is not because of the supremacy that was fought, but because I would have been to the marriage.
I will say I did show
the excommunicate scene that gets me every time.
Oh, yes. Yes. I'll tell you, I started to see my own judgment when I saw that scene in Beckett. Like, dang.
Let's see. I'm just trying to think of the other ones. There's John Paul I, The Smile of God. That's pretty good. Pius XII with James Cromwell Under the Roman Sky. That's pretty good. That just came out about a year or two ago. Some of these are on Tubi or some of them are on the free sites.
Yeah. Did you all watch Cabrini? I haven't gotten around to it yet. I heard mixed reviews of it.
I liked it, but it is not about her spiritual life at all, sadly.
Oh.
And it's all focused on New York. It doesn't talk about the other things she did.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many Catholics have asked me if I've seen Conclave yet.
No.
No.
I finally did just so that I could like have an opinion on it. I had to watch it on like 1.5 speed, but yeah.
See if I can find the trailer. Robert Harris, who wrote Conclave, did a book in the 90s called Fatherland. And it's because of that I've kind of been hooked on his stuff. I'm trying to see if I can find the trailer for it because it's online, actually. Let's see.
So the Fatherland?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's basically an alternative history. What if Hitler had won World War I or II, and the Holocaust was never revealed?
Oh, I've seen that. It's with Rutger Hauer, isn't it?
This April, a tense, terrifying, terrific thriller will rewrite video history.
Yeah, Rutger
I can't take it seriously because that guy has done so many trailers.
In a time.
Thousands have been killed.
The track's a
Adolf
journalist
Hitler.
who finds out about the Holocaust. And you just got demonetized.
Oh boy.
I was just thinking I'm going to have to get running because, like I said, I got to get ready for the Pinks.
Yeah.
All right. Well, nice to meet you guys.
All right. Well, nice
to meet you as well.
Well, before we leave, anything to plug? I mean, Odin has his streams.
Well, yeah, movie reviews. You can see Box Office Breakdown tomorrow. We'll have our live stream. Had to cancel last week because of craziness at here. I got sick over the weekend, so luckily I'm feeling better from that. So I was like on and off FNT because I was like, oh, okay, my wife's sick. I got to go take care of the kids. And all of a sudden when I got back on, I'm like, oh, I'm about to vomit. I need to get off of this now.
Oh, and
what is going on tonight?
Father, we decided that how do you pronounce the name Pizza Balla?
Pizza Balla.
If he becomes the Pope, maybe Gary from Nerdrotic will become Catholic.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
It would be a miracle. Yeah. Well, Odin's going to be on with me. Actually, on Wednesday, we're going to Catholic explain, or rather, he's going to Catholic explain the Latin Mass because, I like to go to it. I just don't understand a lot about it.
Today was Quasimodo Sunday.
Nice.
Yeah, Quasimodo. Woohoo! Yeah. Well, and especially it's in the news kind of right now because this is one of the issues that people are considering or talking about for sure. So
I'm hoping we go back to the previous directive. I think that would solve a lot of problems, but we'll see.
Absolutely.
My brother's still doing a Horus Heresy podcast, 30K, Legion Cast 18. I'm on that once in a while. We're reading all the Horus Heresy 30K books, and we're just past the middle, so still a lot to go.
And I will not be streaming on Friday because I will probably be with Father Apple back in Iowa because I'm going home on Wednesday after school's out for a few days, so I won't be streaming this week. So,
all right, let me know when you get into.
I will.
The state.
I will. I'll drop you a text. But I want to thank.
Not this week, but next week we'll be on.
I'm leaving this
Pope
Wednesday,
Watch.
so in 3 days.
Pope Watch.
So a week from Monday we'll be on Pope Watch.
Yes, we will. We might have to have another stream.
Oh gosh, I'm not going to get any sleep.
Just pray it's during the afternoon here. Anyway, with that, I got to run. I thank you guys for joining me. It's been good catching up. We'll do it again, and we'll be seeing you.
Okay, bye.